Hey guys, we're going to do the case competition in like 5 minutes. The judges of the competition, if you can come down so we can brief you on how the event is going to go. Well, my name is Chika Okafor. I'm a first-year student at Georgetown McDonough School of Business. I hope you all are excited to be here. This conference is the culmination of a lot of work by a lot of people, and now we're going to focus on the case competition. But before we dive into the team presentations, I'd like to provide some background. Awesome. So why did we decide to do a case competition this year? Well, we launched our first ever case competition in March, and the goal was, in light of this year's theme, the future is African. We launched the case competition to inspire attendees to join the movement in identifying and harnessing opportunities for a prosperous Africa. We asked teams to respond to the open case prompt, as you see here, design an innovative solution for a sector of your choosing that will drive economic development and increase the growth and prosperity of the continent. 26 teams across 14 universities around the world participated. Teams were matched with over 25 mentors from our partnerships with Deloitte, NIH, and Google to refine their solution. The 6 teams made it to the final round, representing the Kelley School of Business, UNC Keegan-Flagler Business School, and the Georgetown McDonough School of Business. The first place team will receive $5,000. The second place team will receive $3,000, and the audience winner will get $1,500, and my colleague Soda will touch on that a little bit later. So in the next hour, we hope you're inspired by all the 6 teams that will be presenting today about harnessing opportunities on the African continent. But before we dive in, I'd like to introduce our esteemed judges who are here on the second row. Dr. Anthony Anand, who is an associate professor of practice for the Georgetown Business School with a background in financial services across the Africa continent. Professor Holly Wise, who is an associate professor in the Georgetown University School of Foreign Service Global Human Development Program. Actually, let's go back. Charles Esubanton, who is the CEO of Capital Ventures. Eileen Varr, who is a sustainable development business strategist. She's the director of strategy and business development at the Niger Delta Partnership Initiative. And Pete Biljon, who is an advisor on innovation, R&D, and sustainable business transformation, and a former management consultant at McKinsey. So the teams will be evaluated by our judges on these main components: the content of the presentation, defining the problem that they are solving, and the innovativeness of the solution, the data quality and visual effectiveness of the presentations, and the presentation delivery. So each team will have 7 minutes to present, 3 minutes for Q&A from our judges. So now let's kick it off. Without further ado, let's dive into the presentations. First up is Team Gold for Gold.
Hello, everyone. Hi. We're very excited today to present to you Project Green X. Now, Project Green X, this is a solution that combats deforestation in North Africa with emphasis on Morocco. As a team of Africans coming from different parts of Africa, the consequences of deforestation is not lost on us at all. My name is Rita. I come from Ghana.
Hi, I'm Abdullahi. I'm from Nigeria.
Hi, I'm Richard, and I'm from Ghana. Hi, I'm Youssef, and I'm from Morocco.
Right. So our presentation today, we have 7 main stops. First, we'll start with the situation, and then we'll go through the approach. We'll discuss what the technical and legal implications of our solutions are. We'll do a deep dive into the financials, have a look at the implementation plan, look at who the related stakeholders are, and finally, we'll end at change management. Now let's dive right in.
So Morocco has been working hard to reverse years of deforestation, but currently the country lacks the needed technology and resources to achieve this task. Every single year, Morocco loses 75,000 acres of forests. For the Americans in the room, that's equivalent to 88 central parks. This comes at a very steep cost, more than $3.2 billion. Imagine what this money could have been used for. For example, financing the green transition the country is currently going through. And since Morocco is planning to create more than 3.5 million acres of protected areas, it is essential that the country has a solution that will allow it to achieve this goal.
Okay, so our solution is a two-pronged one. The first one involves intensive monitoring, and we are going to use satellite technology to do that. We are going to see Morocco's unique landscape and make sure that we are looking at areas which are most at risk of deforestation. The second aspect involves a combative process, which is going to have a team on the ground, making sure that this whole process is well monitored, and the legal framework enables us to do so in order to deal with deforestation. Then we also go on to using leveraging technology, because that's at the heart of our solution. This technology has been proven to work by several governments and other private agencies that have been working with this. This is going to incorporate remote sensing, artificial intelligence, and a robotic process. This is going to make sure that, first of all, whatever data we are gathering is going to be well analyzed by our AI, and the robotic process is going to make sure that it is well reported to all the teams involved in monitoring the deforestation program. This is going to drive our second aspect, which is the regulatory change. With regulatory change, we are looking at instituting more incentives and penalties to make sure that anybody in Morocco is more involved in combating deforestation. Also, we are going to look at all these other forestation programs all over the world to make sure that we're incorporating the best practices that they are deploying. Finally, we are going to make sure that we're integrating the Moroccan system, looking at all points of entry and exit to ensure that anything involved in deforestation is well tracked and monitored to make sure that we are minimizing deforestation to the highest possible level.
Project Green X is a solid business case. The government of Morocco will be able to generate $2.4 billion over the next 5 years by investing in this project. The $2.4 billion will stems from increased agricultural productivity to the tune of $1 billion, reduced disaster costs, reduced degradation, and also improved water management. By just investing $890 million in satellite launch, ground stations, training, and also stakeholder management. This project will also generate net positive cash flow within 17 months. This speaks to it being a solid business case. There are other numerous environmental benefits and also long-term benefits. Let's just imagine what $2.4 billion can do for the government of Morocco. Now to the timeline. This project will span over 2 years, focusing on 4 main areas. The first will be selecting our partners that will help with building this satellite. Then the second will be to launch the satellite. To launch the satellite, we need to capture more areas in Morocco and also get quality images by incorporating artificial intelligence and also robotic analytics into the satellite. Then the third will also focus on training our ground station managers to have knowledge of this technology. And lastly, to glue it all together, we'll now be focusing on our stakeholders and the change management this project will bring on board.
We well know that a project of this scale will bring together a lot of stakeholders. So according to our research, we have identified the 6 main ones. First, the Moroccan government, through its specialized agencies, will be the driving force behind Project GreenX. Second, the private sector, especially lumber companies, who are a key component to achieve the success of this project. We have financial partners, such as the IFC, and also international agencies, such as the United Nations Development Programme. Our goal is to leverage their expertise to make sure that this project is fulfilled in a very efficient manner. Next, we'll be working hand in hand with local NGOs. And finally, with the Moroccan average citizen, who will be the key beneficiary of this project.
Now, looking at the number of stakeholders involved, change management is essential to the success of Project GreenX. Our change management plan has 4 main components. First, we'll start with documentation and affirming the Moroccan government's commitment to this. Secondly, we'll build an engagement plan that communicates to all stakeholders on this project. The third would manage all our stakeholders, clearly setting out what their roles and responsibilities are. Last, we talk about management. Now, we all know in this room that what gets measured actually gets done. So we are defining the KPIs, we are tracking it across and making the necessary course corrections as we go through this program. Now, I know we've thrown a lot at you in a very short time, but as I leave and as our team leaves, 4 main things to remember. First, we invest $800 million US. This will save 2.4 billion in benefits. And the good part, it addresses the deforestation problem of Morocco. The most exciting part of this solution is that it's scalable to the rest of Africa. Now, we as a team believe in Project Green X, and we invite you to believe in it too. Thank you.
Awesome presentation. Thank you, guys. So to our judges, anyone have any questions?
I have a question. Hi. My question is about the technology you're planning on using. It looked to me like you were planning to launch your own satellite. So obviously that's possible, but it costs money. Have you looked at the availability of feeds from commercial satellites? I presume you would want to infrared and other feeds that you need. Why is it necessary to launch your own satellite?
Yeah, there are 2 reasons why we are launching our satellites. The first is the current satellite in Morocco is has a useful life of 5 years, and it was launched in 2018, so it's about to complete its useful life. Then the second reason is the satellite that we are launching is going to incorporate artificial intelligence and robotic analytics. The third-party agencies that you mentioned that we can leverage, they will only send the images to our ground station managers. It takes some days for them to process that images and then combat the deforestation. But the one we are launching, we generate the images, process that images immediately and send it to our ground station managers. They can immediately take actions. Let me give a scenario. Let's assume there's a wildfire going on in a forest. Our satellite captures the image, processes the images immediately, and sends information to the firefighters to go in there and combat it immediately. There's no lag in between when the image is captured and when the action is taken. Unlike the ones where we partner third parties, where they send the image to us, it takes a while. We also sit back, process it, it takes a while, and we send people to go and combat it. It takes another time again. So we are trying to launch this satellite to ensure that there's no time lag between when the images are captured and when the actions are taken. Thank you.
If I can add another part to that answer. The reason why we decided to do this in-house instead of partnering with another company is because we wanted to use this project as a launchpad for a Moroccan space industry. So instead of giving it to a third country, like in France or go to the US for this technology, if we are able to help create the human resources that will allow to develop this project, like what's happened with the Emirati Space Agency. Like they started from scratch, and in the beginning they contracted everything out, but then they did it in-house. If we're able to do something similar, this could be the launch pad of a broad African space industry. This has already been the case for the aeronautic industry. Morocco is one of the biggest suppliers of aeronautic parts for the past 20 years. Every single Boeing that flies today has parts that were made in Morocco. The car industry has done the same, the train industry as well. So this could be a great chance to create a new ecosystem that would not just benefit the country, but an entire continent through it.
Let me ask this. How confident are you about a 6-month preparatory period? You would have to train people, as you say. Morocco may have folks already interested in the aeronautic business, but you're coming up with a new concept and you have to make sure that there's enough scale on the ground to take this forward. How long do you think this is all going to take?
So I can take that question. So the 6 month is a preparatory period to make sure that we have the right structures in place. Now, working with governments and the stakeholders that we mentioned there, definitely 6 months is not enough, but the entire program duration is in phases. This is the first phase. That is a 2-year period. So the first 6 months is in defining the structure. What does the task force look like? What are the different groups that we would need? Who are the people who need to be equipped? That's what that first 6 months is doing. That's why we call that the preparatory period.
You also had an MPV in the order of magnitude. What IRR are you looking at?
Yeah, so based on analysis, the IRR will return around 170. 7%, but we focus on MPV because that's a very financial metric that most people can relate to in the room, and we deliberately use the NPV as analysis. Also, we used in the one that does not have discounted cash flow, which is the payback period, to just communicate to people how soon this project will generate net positive cash flow going forward, and which is 17 months.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Let's give a hand of applause to them. Yeah, that's right. All right, the next team is Team IDEF Dames.
Check. Hello. Oh. Check. Oh, awesome.
All over the world, poverty has a woman's face, bruised by pervasive inequalities, yet tempered by unbroken resilience. We at Her Farm see women as Africa's strongest resource to drive sustainable development, growth, and prosperity across the continent.
Women comprise 50% of the agricultural labor force in sub-Saharan Africa, but their plots are 20 to 30% less productive than men. Studies confirm that inequitable access to inputs, technology, and training are the primary drivers of this divide between male and female productivity. Moreover, persistent cultural norms often confine women to subsistence farming rather than cash crop farming, earning less and facing greater rates of poverty than men. This creates a gender gap with both social and economic repercussions for these women farmers. This is especially true in rural Ghana. And this is the cycle of poverty and agricultural lower productivity that we are trying to break at Her Farms. We plan to scale and support her work,
Her Farm.
Her Farm is an innovative multi-level intervention with a two-pronged approach of increasing agricultural productivity and empowering women, effectively closing this gap. We also know that empowering women in communities leads to a ripple effect of positive externalities, which include nutrition, education, financial stability, as well as sustainability, which follow in their respective communities when we choose to empower women-run enterprises.
Here's how we'll do it. The first level of our intervention is norm entrepreneurship. Through researching and communicating on the ground with local chiefs, queen mothers, and community leaders, we will identify a village in Ghana's Ashanti region that is receptive and in need of this pilot program. One aspect of this level is to hold public forums and to use social and spiritual norms of respect for women to challenge the imposing limits on the roles of women in the cash crop industry. Another aspect of this is helping women without existing crops gain access to land. By changing norms and working within community structures, we will incentivize villages to loan locally owned land to women farmers, such as by offering a percentage of the production profit margin to the communities. The second level of our intervention is establishing partnerships that will support our funding and training streams. We have already met with the leadership at the Minority Business Development Agency and the International Trade Administration and have gotten their advice on the implementation of Her Farm's pilot program. We have spoken with AgriHouse, a Ghanaian agricultural foundation that's agreed to help us identify a village and also connect us with leaders and entrepreneurs to train women on the ground. Other stakeholders, such as the Ghana Innovation Hub, will help us develop educational protocols, technological infrastructure, and the Her Farm hotline. We are proud to announce that the Ministry of Food and Agriculture of the Republic of Ghana has approved our initiative. It has agreed to support us carry out the implementation of our pilot program.
Thank you. The third and fourth levels of the Her Farm framework focus on workforce development and community delivery. Our workforce is a group of local women we call women technologists that are trained to help other female farmers in the village navigate challenges, scale their efforts, and maximize their profits. These women are the heart of our program. Technologists are in the community and just a phone call away. 96.4% of Ashanti households have access to mobile devices, and technological infrastructure continues to expand rapidly. We hope to leverage this reality to ensure local farmers have quick and easy access to our help and our support. Technologists can connect women to inputs and services, such as through using existing apps like Hello Tractor, essentially an Uber for tractors in Ghana, to ensure that women reap the benefits of mechanized farming technologies. Technologists can direct women to the most profitable markets for selling their goods. They can perform site visits and advise women on how to grow their business. They're also informants of opportunities for value added and innovative crops. For example, tomatoes are highly perishable, but they can be dried to decrease waste and generate additional revenue. Take another example. Bamboo is a commonly overlooked crop endemic across Africa. It's sustainable, it's nutritious, it's a versatile and strong material for construction. Fundamentally, our theory of change works so that we foster a community of women supporting women through overcoming gender barriers to inputs, markets, and knowledge. We hope to elevate women and end the cycle of poverty and subjugation. So, what's next for Her Farm? When we win, we are committed to making this dream of ours a reality. We have detailed our implementation plan here, and across 3 years, we hope to launch our program, grow it, and expand it to multiple villages, all while taking measures of success across activity, capacity, and most importantly, our impact.
Our partners have additionally agreed to help us with selecting a village as well as launching our program. With the winnings from this competition, we will directly invest them into hiring 2 technologists, establishing a base of operations, and meeting the community where we are. It is this platform of by women for women is the reason why Her Farm Enterprises recognizes that women play vital roles as agents for change in their communities and across the globe.
Now, the question is, are you ready to make this dream a reality?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Judges, any questions? Let's go.
Thank you, ladies. I have a quick question. So this is a nonprofit organization, correct?
Correct.
Excellent. My question to you is what you all have streamlined the implementation and have programmed that pretty nicely. What is the sustainable funding mechanism that you all are looking to establish to be able to bring both the private sector and government together for sustainable funding and capital for these women farmers?
Absolutely. We've been talking about this, and we're very interested in crowdfunding mechanisms, grant writing, and of course, baking in our partnerships with AgriHouse, which already has training programs for us to use. And the Ministry of Food and Agriculture has already a specific food and agriculture program for women. So a lot of this is going to be a collaborative effort, but we hope to make it sustainable and integrate the community so that we're not the ones running it. It's the women in the community, and it's sustainable because they're the ones running it.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you.
Oh, got it.
So my question again, in 3 years' time, we visit Ghana, she doesn't have her farm. What has gone wrong?
If in 3 years after implementation, Her Farm is not working, it's because we failed to identify what cultural trigger is going to be necessary to inspire these women to work. For example, one of the reasons that we showed the Ashanti region is because in comparison to Ghana, it has a
matrilineal patronage.
A matrilineal patronage. It's just about reminding the people in this community where the traditions are. They respect women, they value them. So why not include them in the cash crop industry? It's about bridging that gap. And if we fail, it's because we didn't use that effectively.
And I want to add that there's already an entrepreneurial spirit in Ghana. Women are already entrepreneurs. Half of Ghana's population they're farmers. Women are farmers. So I think that what would go wrong is we're not including them in modeling and inspiring other women to see their projects through and to see that they can be financially independent and they can have the success that other women are experiencing across the country.
Awesome.
you.
Thank you so much. Let's give
Thank you
a
for your
round of
time.
applause.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Hi, hello, good morning. We're a team Afro-Hills. On the team Shola, Dotun, Shayo, and me, Ahmed. We are here to present our credit scoring platform. Yeah, Africa SMEs face a huge gap in financing, and they are also exposed to exorbitant interest rates. So Afro-Hills is trying to create a solution, a credit scoring platform that closes this gap for over 20 million SMEs in Africa. And we believe that if you can reduce this interest rate by even 1%, you can save $72 million in interest costs per year. So this huge credit problem in Africa is hindering economic development, and we have grouped the underlying causes into 4 buckets. The first is access challenge, a business form, high interest rate, and low credit scoring system for SMEs. The access challenge is as a result, SMEs basically don't have access to finance because banks don't have information about them to create a comprehensive scoring system. And this is mainly due to their business forms. Many of them are unstructured and they're not even registered, and this drives up the interest rate they get from lenders. The alternative is to go to loan sharks that can charge them as high as 30 to 40% APR. So, and this is where Afro-Hills platform comes in to create a credit scoring platform to solve this problem. Another issue is the banks have with SMEs is trust and information asymmetry. The banks rely on their relationships with SMEs to get informal information to create a risk profile for SMEs. But banks can't really rely on the information provided by the SMEs because they will be exposing themselves to unnecessary and excessive credit risk. And SMEs too don't trust banks because if they reveal or divulge sensitive information, they might be exposing themselves and get high interest rate because they're revealing their failures. Now I'm going to pass it on to Shola to talk about the solution.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that. Thank you very much, Ahmed, for that. Okay, thank you very much, Ahmed, for that brief introduction. Now I'm going to be taking us through our solution. So basically, our B2B credit platform is going to harness the power of machine learning algorithm to formalize the SME sectors and businesses in Africa. Now, what we basically plan to do is to try and formalize, use machine learning to basically formalize some of those SME businesses, and then basically try to harness the power of information. So we're going to be basically assessing most of these SME businesses using relevant information such as the business risk, historical transactions, and some other relevant information. We are confident that by formalizing some of these SMEs, we'll be able to attract lenders, and then these lenders will be willing to actually give out credit and loans to some of these SMEs at a lower interest rate. Basically, how do we plan to do this? So our go-to-market strategy is basically to partner with lenders, such as microfinance banks and other cooperative society and other trade associations that are currently playing in this space, and they will obtain historical data for some of these loans that have been given to the SMEs in the past, and then use those information to train our ML algorithm. And once we've able to do that, we will now basically compare the outputs from our ML algorithm to the traditional way they've been doing businesses to basically validate our machine learning proprietary algorithm. Now I'm going to pass it on to Dr. to talk about our stakeholders.
All right, thank you very much, Shola. So we intend to create win-win partner
partnerships with our major stakeholders. So to fund our solution, we would target partners that particularly and genuinely care about making social impact. So that way we can give them a good ROI, while also they can be motivated by the impacts that the idea is going to make. For our data partners, we would be partnering with cooperatives, trade associations, and medium-sized banks, because this is where the SMEs currently go to get funding, so we can get the historical data from them. And in return, we would offer them discounted access to our platform, and also help them to reach a wider, credible SME base that they can further lend to. So while we want to make impact, we also want to make money, and so we would be generating a revenue of about $4.9 billion over 5 years, with $2 billion profits, and at an investment-based cost of about $1.7 million, we would break even in year 5 and even generate a 20% return on investment. I'll quickly pass it on to Shayo to drive us on.
Yeah, so to implement our idea, we've broken it down into 3 phases across 3 core framework: people, process, data, and technology. For the planning phase, we intend to collect 5 years of historical data from microfinance bank and trade union, which we will use to train our machine learning algorithm. Alongside this, we will get regulatory approval and register the business. When the proof of concept developed, what we intend to do is to partner with anchor banks and also monitor users' response. So how do we implement this? First, SMEs in Africa have obtained loan at 30% interest rate, and that has amounted to about 7.2 billion of interest cost. If we can just reduce this by 1%, that means we will be saving $72 million per year. And on the bank side, that will reduce their loan impairment. So it's a win-win for all. We intend to start from Nigeria and scale to 3 African countries. Let's talk about the risk. In God we trust, others will bring data. Quality of data is very, very essential. So that's one of the major risks we've identified. And to mitigate that, we will ensure that we have a very credible data collection and also verify this data. Regulatory process is a bottleneck in Africa. So we intend to make sure we partner with the government and also get a legal expert to advise us on that. We have our appendices that shows our technical architecture and mock-up. Thank you very much, and we're happy to take any questions you have.
Awesome. Do we have any questions from the judges?
Thanks very much. I think that what you propose is very needed across Africa. Could you tell us about why you chose to pilot or launch in Nigeria and also roll out in the subsequent countries for phase 2? And do you think that this is a Pan-African approach that is going to work in each and every one of the locales?
Yeah, I could begin that and others can chime in also. So the choice of starting with Nigeria is based on a couple of things. One is the existing infrastructure that we have for payment solutions. So we're seeing SMEs are beginning to jump on that, so that gives us a leeway to start. Also, the number of SMEs we have in Africa, a lot of them are within Nigeria, so that's a strong place to start our impact. And so we have just broken this down into phases. So the second phase then goes into similar countries that have a similar pattern to what we are seeing in Nigeria. And after the first 5 years, we could expand and go further into the other African countries. So to your point, we plan to scale this across Africa, but just in phases to ensure we succeed in this.
Yeah, maybe to add to Dr.'s point, we are all from Nigeria, so we are very familiar with that market. So it's very important we start from a market we are familiar with before moving to other locations.
Thank you for that. I actually work across the 9 states in the Delta. Did you all think, I'm not sure if I caught it, but what is the forecasted time frame it would take to do a baseline assessment on the structure of SMEs, and whether they're not fit for purpose to be able to qualify for this?
I'm not sure.
So the actual analysis that it will take to see what the current structures of SMEs, yes, it's not formal. We'll have to see if there can be a business plan implemented to be able to qualify for a credit opportunity. The baseline assessment for that, did you all calculate what that would take? Did you focus on a region or the whole country? Because that's a portion of what it would take to be able to get to the next phase. Did you all do an analysis on that?
Yeah, maybe I can start on that. We're actually planning to start from Lagos, which is where a large number of SMEs are based in Nigeria. Based on the lessons from Lagos, we'll then move to other locations in Nigeria. So that's the approach we are looking at. Others can chime in.
Last question.
Do you disaggregate SMEs? What legal structures are we talking about? Sole proprietors, partnerships, and so on. I know to get verifiable data, you have to be audited, right? Sole proprietors don't necessarily have to be audited. You take that into account.
Basically, that is why we said we're going to start with the cooperative society and trade union. Now, this is where majority of some of these SMEs actually get their information from, get their credit loan from. So if we are able to partner with some of those cooperative societies, and then those cooperative societies can actually inform those SMEs that before you can actually have access to this loan, you have to come up with like a kind of formal accounting process, such that you'll be able to put your books together, and then we can use that information in our ML account.
If I could, yeah, I also want to add to that. Like, I think it's one of the problems we're also trying to solve, because we can't just get all SMEs to start registering their business and put structure. So that's the reason we're trying to leverage machine learning algorithm. We collect alternative data on the SMEs, who are the founders, who are they connected to, do they have financial education, just to get some business and risk insight into all this data. So from the machine learning algorithm, we can use data, learn what factors actually contribute to default on loans, and based on that, we're able to, even if it's a new SME that's just starting today, we're able to predict their risk level based on information they provide us.
So I have a quick question on the data, right? So you're planning on getting it from a number of sources to feed into the machine learning. How are you going to get all these third parties? How are you going to convince them to give you the data, the suppliers, the insurers, all these people?
Yes, some of the data will be provided by the SMEs themselves, and we just have to verify we just have to validate them. Then some other the other sources of data, I think Dr. touched on that. We'll be partnering with banks to give us some of their historical data, and the incentive for them is give them access to our platform, maybe for free for a number of years. I mean, we're trying to solve a problem that we both care about. And so we don't have that fully figured out, but we are thinking along those lines. We give them incentive, then they give us access to their data. Other things like business review, social media data, public information like bankruptcy, they are out there on the online, so we can just design systems to scrape online and get this information. Majority of the data will be coming from their financial statements and information they provide us.
Great, let's give them a hand. All right, the next team is Team Pantera.
$1.3 billion people live in Africa today. $35 billion of foreign aid to the healthcare sector in Africa every year. And yet every year, 7 million people die from diseases in the continent. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you DigiHealth. Now, one of the problems with the healthcare sector in South Africa is a lack of data and weak statistical capacity. Now, the implications of that is that it leads to low quality and limited access to care. It contributes to weak capacity to address healthcare challenges, and ultimately leads to a lack of evidence-based policy-making decisions. Now, in South Africa specifically, the country boasts 0% data coverage of health facilities. South Africa holds 17% of the global burden of HIV disease, yet less than 1% of the world's population. There's an inequitable distribution of the healthcare system in the country. Despite that, however, there's a political opportunity through the new government health plan of 2026. There's a capacity for a digital health plan through the Smart ID, which is the government's digital identification number recently implemented. One thing that is actually missing is a digital health platform.
And this is where we come in. Our platform, the DigiHealth, aims to streamline data collection in South Africa's health system by providing a safe, accessible, and responsive system using the existing Smart ID infrastructure. We aim to create a platform that collects health data at an individual level, aggregates it at a facility level, with the aim of providing evidence-based policies in the future. Now, for our program, we propose a pilot in 4 public hospitals in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. This pilot will be conducted in partnership with the South African National Department of Health. It will be funded by international aid organizations such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the World Bank, and it will be implemented by a grassroots South African organization. The reason we choose a grassroots organization is because we understand local native context is essential to successful programs for the people on the ground. Our pilot will have 3 steps: development, implementation, and assessment. The development step has 2 phases. The first phase will include developing the DigiHealth platform, which will be outsourced to a tech organization. This will be followed by a 3-month training phase, wherein medical staff as well as administrative staff will be trained in the 4 pilot hospitals to appropriately and effectively use the DigiHealth platform. This will be followed by the second step, which is implementation. The pilot will be held for 2 years in 4 public hospitals. We detail out the process flow of what this pilot will look like for a patient visiting the 4 hospitals here. Essentially, we will be collecting data for each patient in these 4 hospitals at every level, from registration, treatment, and testing, using the Smart ID. Throughout the implementation, we will also be conducting quarterly evaluations to ensure that the DigiHealth platform is running smoothly and it is being used by the medical professional and used appropriately. The last step of the pilot will be an assessment. This will include a mixed methods research, wherein we will attempt to gauge whether or not a platform like this is effective and efficient in reducing the burden of the healthcare system. This will be followed by a broader assessment with medical professionals, administrative staff, as well as policy practitioners to understand whether the data collected from a system like this can be used to bridge the infodemic and inform strategic policies in the future.
DigiHealth will have 3 main benefits. First, it will increase access by building up digital capacity in healthcare facilities. Second, it will improve quality by coordinating care across facilities and increasing access to data to inform evidence-based policy solutions. And finally, it will reduce costs by streamlining the process, by informing effective resource allocation, and by building up the capacity to provide preventative care. The success of a digital platform with a personal identification number has been proven in numerous cases, such as in Rwanda, Morocco, and Indonesia. Given these successes, we are optimistic about the potential for DigiHealth. Through our research, we've come across 3 potential risks. The first is privacy concerns. We plan to mitigate this risk through different levels of access based off of the personnel level, through documenting health data and the Smart ID number separately. In practice, when a patient comes to scan their Smart ID, An anonymous number will be generated on the back end, and that is what will be linked to their health records. Additionally, to ensure that hospitals are properly using the system, we will provide monetary incentives for the hospitals, as well as continuously monitor the system and step in when additional support is needed. To address the final concern, which is the technology divide, we will provide both the technology capital as well as training in the platform to support DigiHealth.
Our aim, if proven effective in Eastern Cape, is to expand this project across South Africa, with the goal of serving as a model across the whole continent who attempt to serve the same issue. Our hope is for an Africa where the people's needs are met by their government's policies. Through DigiHealth, we can get one step closer to that. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Judges, any questions?
Nice job. I wanted to ask two little questions. One, who are your competitors? Not in other countries, but on the ground in South Africa? And two, how are you going to deal with patient confidentiality and the fact that a lot of services are provided not through hospitals and not through government facilities, but through a whole variety of private providers?
Yeah, okay, that's a great question. To address our competitors, so in the Eastern Cape, they're not currently doing this. In the Western Cape, there is a similar program, and that's actually been proven successful. That's why we're really optimistic about DigiHealth. And then to address your second question about the different health facilities, the pilot will start off in 4 public hospitals. So we'll be able to prove that it's effective there, and then once it's been proven effective, that's when we'll go ahead and try to expand it to the whole of South Africa.
Did you say anything about financing? What are your sources of financing? How do you, is it profitable entity? Is it nonprofit, so on?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think when we were looking into doing this project, all the people we talked to asked a similar question. And I think it touches on the previous question as well in regards to competitors. We actually don't see this as a competition because our goal is not to make this a moneymaker. Our goal is actually this to be a development project. So in regards to pilot program, we identify an international organization as the financier. If we were to expand this across South Africa, it would require some sort of investment from the South African government. Now we do understand that this comes at a cost. With that being said, we recognize that the benefits of such a program heavily outweigh the costs. And with a digital platform, not only are we investing in this program, we're investing in every single development project that is going to happen in the future, where people can know actually the data and the information on the ground before they invest their money. So to answer your question, we don't intend to monetize this, and specifically because we want to build trust with the people on the ground. Lack of trust is a big issue in Africa and in a lot of countries, and so we don't want to sell any sort of information or any data for ethical consideration.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you all.
All right, the next team is Hilltop Partners.
Imagine that you live in a village near Lagos. Your family depends on farming and has had a very poor harvest due to lack of access to irrigation sources. You wake up every morning before sunrise to fetch water for your family. You travel miles to the nearest water source and with only a canister to carry the precious liquid. You endure extreme weather conditions, whether it is scorching heat or heavy rain, and avoid dangerous animals as well as strangers along the way. Good afternoon. My name is Priyasha. Victor, Nathan, and I will guide you through a solution that has the potential to enhance lives of multiple Africans. Like your family, 90% of the rural population's primary source of income is agriculture, and more than 95% of the farming land relies on rainfall. Access to safe water in sub-Saharan Africa is worse than any other continent in the world. 1 in 3 Africans face water insecurity, and 400 million don't have access to clean drinking water. The water crisis is exacerbated by high levels of corruption, weak governments, and mismanagement of water treatment resources. In the past, water contamination and poor supply has led to incidents of domestic and cross-border violence in Africa.
Given this issue's severity, improving water access has long been a focus of development advocates. There are 2 main regions that face water shortages, just below the Saharan Desert and toward the southern tip of the continent. In these regions, a variety of development programs have been implemented, but difficulties, primarily with infrastructure and political environment, have harmed their efficacy. Additionally, implementation has been uneven across countries and regions. Specifically, there have been several broad types of development programs that have been implemented. Financial tools like microfinance and water banks that spur investment, infrastructure development projects like building water utilities that increase access, and finally, improved agricultural practice programs like agroforestry and supplemental irrigation that conserve usage.
So with these learnings, our team really wanted to create a solution that would present a water access program that would ensure accessibility for families in the long term. And how would that work? So we want to capture rainwater during rainy seasons and use that water capture and storage in a cistern that will be connected to the house. And our idea here is that that connection would provide the water for families, and we would use the surplus of that water management so that we could try to use for small scale crop production. So that's really the idea of our project, to generate economic output, trying to assess the water accessibility, and at the same time trying to generate a new ecosystem of logistic drivers and local retailers, so that we could generate this economic output. And really the beauty of it is just how simple it is to connect the system to the house and start creating the solution.
For our pilot program, we chose a country with the highest water risk on the map from our earlier slide. We chose 4 evaluative criteria: political stability and security, agricultural ecosystem, economic trajectory, and local infrastructure. After considering these criteria, we decided to go ahead with Nigeria. Why? Because the Nigerian agricultural ecosystem contributes 22.3% to the GDP. It is the largest economy in Africa and has a relatively well-developed local infrastructure, with only mild concerns about political instability. Access to clean water sources will further advance the Nigerian economy.
So now going into more details on how that value chain would work, we are going to be focusing a lot on co-development and trying to assess partnerships with local students, NGOs, and also organizations that are already in this water management focus, and at the same time adding that agricultural focus so that we can be training these new households, and at the same time trying to gather data so that we would be efficient on the crop production, so that we can spur this economic output. Now the question is how we are going to be funding this project. We have a number of organizations that we can be applying to raise funds to acquire a number of cisterns, but we are going to be mainly focused on the Feed the Future program, which is from USAID, and that's very interesting because our project already is very focused on this water access, and at the same time Nigeria and the US already has a partnership so that we can generate this project. The implementation phase we divided in three. Phase one is going to be site selection and really trying to generate that operating team at the beginning so that we can go to the next phase, which is going to be the execution part, trying to assess the data that we have on the water capacity, ensuring that we first analyze the water access issue, and then we can move to the next phase, which is really trying to generate that connected network with local drivers, local retailers, so that we can build further growth in the region that we select.
Shareholder analysis further supports our belief that this proposal will be effective. We focused on engaging high-influence, low-interest stakeholders like the national government through multi-sectoral coalition building to improve program durability. We also intend to increase the influence of low-influence stakeholders, like the farmers we're trying to assist, by promoting collective advocacy and farming practices in an effort to improve equity. To ensure our program's efficacy, we also conducted a risk assessment. We believe that agricultural training is lacking and also ineffective when imposed from above, so we emphasize co-learning in agriculture. Cistern management logistics may also present challenges, so we're prioritizing local capacity building as well. Ultimately, this will culminate in a solution-oriented culture of water access improvement.
So how we are going to be measuring that? We divided in two categories, and the first KPI we are going to be ensuring is that there is reduced dependency on external sources of water accessibility, and at the same time making sure that we have a successful harvest. We are going to be interviewing households, making sure that we are surveying data so that we can reach our program goals of 8 out of 10 households with self-sufficient water, and also more than 2/3 of those managing to sell the crop production. And to conclude, our team does believe that Nigerian families should be walking more to bring water home instead of trying to figure out ways so that they can get water sufficient in a long-term sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Judges, do we have any questions?
Hi, quick question. What is the lifespan of the program? A, and have you all identified any private sector companies that are making these cisterns? And if so, have you looked at the private sector to be part of the financing ecosystem for this initiative?
So let me answer the first question, which is tied to basically the lifespan. We did, with our research, understood that within 10 months we are able to generate this water management so that we can generate the surplus to start producing crops. Now the question of which type of crop we are going to be focusing, that's really dependent on the site location, but we saw from our research of a number of crops in Nigeria that within 3 to 6 months we already can track data to understand the length of really how to generate long-term scalability for crop production.
Just to add to that, so we identified an NGO called the Rainwater Harvesting Association of Nigeria, which we're going to partner with because they help communities on training and installation and how to best use rainwater. So this is a partner organization that we have identified.
So a quick question for you. So your project presupposes that it's going to rain. Now, what of areas that are experiencing extensive dry season?
Perfect. Very good question. And our research indicated that's why we also selected Nigeria. Nigeria has the southern belt, which is the southern belt that you have enough precipitation throughout the year so that we can generate the surplus. So we were very careful on selecting Nigeria and the southern belt, that it does have a risk in terms of the sustainability of water, but it does rain there, so that's where we are going to be focusing.
And we acknowledge the fact that this solution might not be the best in areas that do not have enough precipitation. So we will have to figure out a transportation system that in areas which have enough precipitation, and if they can be transported to areas that are more dry.
Last one.
So the rainwater harvesting models that you've looked at, They're very often, when it's a structure collection, like roofs of houses that you're talking about, it's for household use. How are you going to then solve for the distribution? You just mentioned that you may have to be taking water from one place to another place, but it's great that you're solving for storage, but how are you going to get the water to where it needs to go for agriculture?
Yeah. So that's why our focus at the beginning on the pilot program is ensuring water accessibility and then generating tests so that we can see if we are able to scale and then understand how much water really we can get to the surplus and how that surplus will be generating crop production in a scale. But really the idea here is ensuring we have water accessibility for households and then moving on to the next phase to try to understand how we can scale.
Just to quickly add to that, I think we can use underground pipelines to transfer water, but I think that's a very I understand that's a very expensive intervention and solution. So there would be, we will have to think about more ideas on how to do that. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Let's give them a hand. All right, cool. So we have our last presentation, Team Visionary.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Perkins. I'm with the Masters of Science in Global Health program.
My name is Sarah Myers. I'm an undergrad at the business school.
My name is David Kepsey. I am a first year in the MBA program.
All right, so we're gonna ask you guys to close your eyes. No, it's not time to take a nap yet. But what we want you to do is we want you to picture what you've done so far today. You know, you ate breakfast, you walked here to campus, and you found a seat in the auditorium with your friends. And now we want you to open your eyes and imagine trying to do any of these everyday activities with little to no vision. Almost half of children under 5 in sub-Saharan Africa have a vitamin A deficiency. And every year, 5 to 10 million will develop xerophthalmia, a serious eye disorder that may result in vision loss and/or untimely death. Through our project, we seek to address vitamin A deficiency-related blindness and enhance economic output in Africa through agriculture cooperatives.
Introducing our solution, Visionary. Visionary is a co-op program with local farmers to create vitamin A-rich cooking oil using local resources. There are 4 simple steps. Number 1, acquisition. We work with local farmers to gather their beef scraps, including fatty oils, and bring them to Visionary. Number 2, production. We work with local producers to render this fat and create this vitamin-rich cooking oil, which we'll then bottle. And with number 3, distribute it using our NGO partners, such as World Vision. And number 4, impact. We need to impact the community in 2 main ways. Number 1, we want to integrate the product into diets to reduce vitamin A deficiency. And number 2, we want to create a sustainable circular economy for the local people that we're helping. So in case the vision is still blurry to you, here's our value add. The current solution comes in 2 different forms. Number 1, there are imported vitamin A capsules given 2 times per year. And number 2, there are imported fortified cooking oils that are mostly vegetable-based. Now these 2 sources are dependent on global partnerships, global funding. They're a little bit hard to organize, and they're mostly focused on urban areas. So they're harder to get to those rural people who are also at need. So our solution is building on this by being much more sustainable. We're looking at a greater supply by working with local producers, local beef vendors, and we have increased acceptance thanks to this local production. There's also rural outreach, thanks to many of the locations these farmers are in more rural communities. And we're reducing hundreds of thousands of pounds of food waste that's just getting dumped every year otherwise. Also, it's very effective. We're using existing resources and existing supply chain, and it's shelf stable for 1 year. So you can bottle this and distribute it very far and keep a warehouse of it as well.
All right, guys, time to talk financials. Now, rather than throwing a bunch of numbers and figures at you, I'm going to trim the fat and focus on what's really essential here. The big part of our costs are fixed costs. They're the cost of the actual fat rendering facility. We estimate that a fat rendering facility costs around $200,000 to establish, but based on our profit estimations, conservatively, if we profit $500 per ton of meat processed, and we process only 1,000 tons in a year, that's a $500,000 profit per facility. It gives us a payback period of only half a year per each facility. Now our variable costs, that's largely labor, gas, and electricity to actually process the meat. And we actually want to pay the workers in our facilities higher wages to ensure sustainable development in the area. Going forward, if you just look at Tanzania, the pilot country of our project alone, we're looking at almost $240 million market size. If you expand to the top 6 African beef producers, that's $1.5 billion. And if you look at the African beef market as a whole, for our product, we're seeing a $10 billion market potential. Now remember, the GDP of Tanzania itself is only $75 billion. That's a pretty significant chunk of that. Now scaling. Where's the beef? How do we grow? So we'd start off with one initial pilot facility in an area in Tanzania. We'd expand across Tanzania to several different cooperatives. And we'd eventually go across all of Africa to countries with pro-beef industrial policies that want their cooperatives available in the area. Over time, we'd even work with local producers to figure out new vitamin-rich sources of vitamin A that we could adapt to our agricultural cooperative model. One of the things we were actually looking into is yams, which I hear are very popular.
Okay, so looking at our implementation and future goals, once we enter the African market and of course establish our pilot in Tanzania, we will look to establish clear standards for the meat producers that we buy from. This will improve the overall quality of the meat industry. But of course, importantly, we will also look to establish monitoring and evaluation frameworks to ensure we are actually reducing the incidence and prevalence of vitamin A deficiency related blindness. And then of course, as firm believers in locally led development, we will continuously strengthen local capacity via training and knowledge sharing, which will provide our co-ops with the autonomy that they need to serve communities long term without external assistance. And we think that this can be done in a 36-month time frame. So in closing, childhood blindness is not just a problem for developing countries, it's one that can and will impact us all as a global community. So with Visionary, millions of children won't have to experience blindness. And according to the World Health Organization, every $1 spent on vitamin A supplementation generates $100 in increased productivity gains. So Visionary has the potential to support the social and economic well-being of both our co-op members, but also the local communities. And so what we want our message today to be is that we don't want to let a preventable vitamin A deficiency stop us from seeing the next doctor, professor, community leader. And with brighter ideas such as these, we can all be visionaries. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Judges?
Yeah, quick question on the half-year payback period. What are we comparing it to? Is it good? Is it bad? What are the benchmarks?
Yeah, so typically larger infrastructure projects like this are actually looking at a payback period of several years. So the fact that we could make up the money of the initial investment costs of setting up the facility within only half a year based on our profits is actually very good. That means that we'd be able to scale relatively rapidly given the costs and the profits relative to the costs.
I understand that beef tallow, if given to families and children, will solve the deficiency problem, the vitamin deficiency problem. The part I may have missed is, you talked a lot about how you're going to produce it, right? And how those factories would work. But what that last step and how it's going to get to those poorest families, will they buy it? Will it be donated to them? How are you going to convince them to consume it? Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Definitely, yes. So the idea here is to create a sustainable, kind of autonomous circular economy. So we would want these, it would still be like a product that you'd have to buy, but we want people who are local to also sell and produce them. So we create more jobs with this and also create more revenue streams for those people as well. We would also seek to, in terms of answering your question about kind of distribution, with the partners like World Vision, we'd help use their connections in the communities, their connections with the local supply chains to kind of see how far we could allow any given producer to distribute their product to local markets. But yeah, it's definitely kind of something we want to be hands-off about and let the local community take over and create this new revenue stream, this new economy. Actually, one more point, sorry about your acceptance, right? So the courier product is being imported. It's just a vegetable-based oil, and it's not entirely There are certain levels of acceptance, but there are still issues in terms of accepting this foreign product. So we think that by producing it locally and by having this community input on this and just, letting this be definitely a local-led project, that will really help with acceptance.
Any more questions? Last one? All right, awesome. Let's give them a hand.
Thank you.
So this concludes our presentation, but audience don't leave because the next step is the audience poll. I'll have my colleague Soda talk about it.
Thanks, Chica. And guys, can we just give it one more round of applause for the amazing team taking this up? Yeah, definitely. Just to give you some background, these folks have been working tirelessly on their deliverables for the past several weeks, and as you can see, they really knocked it out of the park. So judges, we know that you guys have a really tough decision ahead of you. However, we'd like to kind of ease the burden a little bit and invite our audience to participate in the finalist selection process. So we want to hear from you guys. Our judges will be picking the first and second place teams, but you all have the opportunity to pick the third place team, so no pressure at all. So behind me right now, you'll see information about accessing a Slido form. You can either go to slido.ido.com and enter.
And right now, we'd like to invite Esther and Adele to announce the winners. Zianda, honestly, if I were to choose the winners, it would be hard for me because they were all good. And I don't know, whoever will be choosing, good luck, because it's like a tough job to do. So please give it up for the team that will be announcing the case competition winners.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us. I have the unique privilege of announcing the Georgetown Africa Business Conference case competition winners. And I must say, feedback that I got from the judges is that it was a very tight deliberation. And so each and every team should be very proud of their achievements and accomplishments today. Without further ado, let's get into the prizes.
Yes, we'll start with the audience prize. So you all were able to vote for the audience. We actually had 90 votes, and it was actually quite aligned to the judges' votes as well. So it's quite in sync in terms of what was going on in terms of the teams that they believed should get the third place prize today. So drum roll, everybody. Adele, over to you.
At third place, winning the audience prize, they get to go home with $1,500. We have Team Go for Gold with their digital health solution. Okay, it seemed like they renamed their title to Panthera. Apologies, Team Panthera. Congratulations all the same. Okay. At second prize, at second place, taking home $3,000, we have, another drum roll, please. Team Afri Heels with their credit scoring platform. Okay, I'm going to try to create a little more suspense for the final round. I'd love to hear your thoughts on who won. So I'd like to get some shouts just from the back. Who do you think won? Anybody? Visionary, Her Farm. Okay, I like it. The first place position and winners of the Georgetown Africa Business Conference 2023 case competition is Team Visionary.
Can Team Visionary come down for us to recognize them, please?
Congratulations to all the teams. I know it's
Can you
cliche,
please
but
come down,
everyone
please?
is a
Sorry.
winner here today. And Visionary go home with $5,000. Thank you so much to all our sponsors and everyone who donated for this cause. Congratulations. people.
Congratulations, team. We'll just get a quick picture with you guys. And as you're getting a picture, we also want to thank the judges. We were actually in the judge calibration room and really great discussions on the team's projects. And so teams, if you want feedback, we will be sharing some general feedback with you and how you can take it further. Every project was very well done and the judges were wowed by each and every presentation. And we want you to be successful in your endeavor. So please let us know how we can best support you in taking this to the next level. So all the teams, we really want to congratulate you and we really appreciate all the commitment and dedication that you put into this case presentation. So thank you.
Congratulations, Team Visionary.
Thank you again, Team Visionary. Congratulations on your success.